This video was made possible by Creality. The new SparkX i7 is now available in the official Creality store, link in the description. Get yours today and get to making. G'day my beautiful bugbears, my name is Aileen, your resident fairy godmother, and welcome back to Darkwood Fantasy Creatures. Today we've got a very special creature
made with all the love I'm legally allowed to give,
with the help of Creality and the new SparkX i7. So with that out of the way, let's get started. But first, as usual, I start off with the head. Using cosclay and a tinfoil base, I shape out a very basic but stylized canine sculpt. I've attempted in the past to explain my sculpting process in greater detail, but really I'm not the best at descriptive language. It's really just a back and forth process of smushing, poking, prodding, stabbing and smoothing until it looks right. And when it reaches that stage, I move on to detailing. Things like texturing the nose, sculpting fur, adding in little inclusions like gems or metal pieces. Like in this instance, I added this vintage glass cabochon and these metal vine brass stampings. And since I'll be 3D printing the horns instead of sculpting them in clay, I rolled up some tinfoil and inserted them where I'll be adding them later on. Then I simply sculpt around it. Now it's time for the part I'm most excited about for this video, the 3D printing. I was so excited when Creality reached out to me to try out their new SparkX i7 for a number of reasons, including its space efficiency, how quiet it is, its inbuilt camera, and its convenience of being able to print directly from your phone. But the thing I was most excited about was its multi-filament feature. Because despite making creatures for the better part of a decade, there is one thing that I have sculpted more than anything else, and it is one thing that I hate sculpting more than anything. And that is paws. I hate sculpting paws. They're just so tedious and repetitive to make, and I have made so many of them. And since I sculpt the back paws slightly bigger than the front in a measurement that's not always noticeable until it's already secured onto the body and covered in fur, I needed a way to label each one. And the multi-filament feature worked perfectly for that, allowing me to color coordinate both the front and the back feet. The multi-filament feature works so well in fact that I'm already planning more complex builds that I can better utilize it in. I also sculpted and printed these antlers, and I printed a bunch of these royalty-free stained glass windows for both this project and another one that's coming very soon. And for the stained glass part of the stained glass windows, I just used some iridescent cellophane, and yes, it does work like real stained glass. It's so pretty. Now that the pieces are all assembled, I fill in the gaps using 2-part epoxy sculpt, then after sanding and priming, it's time to paint. I use acrylic paint cut with water, and I went with a vibrant Creality green. Mostly for the collaboration, but mainly because of the inspiration for this doll. I don't have very clear memories of my childhood, or many good ones for that matter, but as the world continues to fall on its head, I found myself looking back at times when things weren't so scary. Like how my kindergarten had a very small, simple stained glass window that seems so plain to me now, but I remember being mesmerized by it when I was small. I remember messy finger painting and not caring if my lines were perfect. And I remember a large arch trellis in the playground of my preschool covered top to bottom in morning glory flowers. I remember sitting underneath it playing fairies when I was little during lunch break, and somehow that memory bleeds into a memory of my mum grafting a staghorn fern onto a very large palm tree in our backyard that always reminded me of antlers to some great beast. Every memory just seems to keep jumping from one to another like I'm leaping through portals, and my eyes are barely adjusting to the golden bloom of each one before I jump onto the next. And I hope I reflected that feeling in this doll's relatively simple design. Relatively simple in comparison to my other works, that is. Creality also seems to have a lot of angular lines in their graphics, so I added a few different lines around the eyes and along the face. Then after a coat of sealant and gloss, it's time to put them on their body. Another hit of nostalgia is I'm using this very cheap polyfill wadding. I used to use this all the time for my creatures when I was first starting out because it was the most affordable option, but it is also the most dangerous. Because it's so thin and wispy, there's nothing protecting your fingers from hot glue as you hold it in place unless you use something like a chopstick or a piece of wood or cardboard, but then there's no guarantee that you won't end up accidentally sticking said piece of cardboard or wood to the wadding and the doll at the same time. I really wouldn't recommend using it, but just be careful if you do. Now for the fur, and I know you're thinking that this is definitely the wrong colour, and you'd be right, it is. That's why we're going to dye it, using the airbrush, and I use Dynaflow liquid paints. These are designed to work in an airbrush as well as work really well on fabric, especially fake fur. It dyes it perfectly without leaving a crusty texture. Then, after a quick brush and some further embellishments, they're done. Everyone, say hello to Evocation, the portal keeper. This doll was so much fun to make. I actually let myself have fun and relax while making them and just let the project take me where it wanted to go, even when I had to make substitutions. I was originally going to frame the face using some of the stained glass arch windows I'd printed, but it ended up looking too crowded, so I used some of this lattice lace to try and catch the vibe I was going for, and I've already incorporated said windows into another project that is almost complete at the time of recording. And I'm sure there's some of you wondering why I just didn't sculpt and 3D print everything, and there's a very good reason for that. The first being I am first and foremost a traditional artist. I enjoy working with my hands more than I do a screen. And secondly, I am nowhere near a professional digital sculptor. I've been practicing Blender for the better part of 2 years and the best I can do is paws and horns. I just discovered Nomad Sculpt however, and my god, it is so much easier to use. I feel like I've been bashing my head against a brick wall all this time using Blender. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what your happiest memories are in the comments down below, and thank you again to Creality for supporting the channel. And again, the SparkX i7 is available now for purchase via the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.